Hello everyone, it's Finnovation. In this video, I'm going to give the complete and ultimate guide to cable management. I'm going to show you how to manage your cables cheaply and easily. So let's get right into it. But before I get into the video, I do want to make sure to stick all the way to the end because I have a few secret tips at the end of the video, so stick around. Alright, the first step in cable management is to start fresh and try to unplug or undo any cable management you tried to do before, because it's better to just undo everything, or at least most of it, because a lot of times you can find things that you didn't need, like extra wires, that you don't use anymore. For me, I ended up finding I didn't need these cables anymore. Good to get rid of them. Now, I wouldn't recommend you unplug everything if this is just a temporary solution for you, but if you really want your cables to look nice, it often helps to just do that. Alright, once you've undone everything, now it's time to start figuring out how many wires you actually have and if you're going to need a surge protector. I would 100% recommend one if you're using something like a computer or monitors, any really electronics that can be damaged. So for me, I have two surge protectors, one that is for my PC, and this one's a little bit more serious, and one is for like my lighting, so that one's not quite as great, but it's definitely helpful to have these power strips, as you know, normally you only have two plug-in sockets to work with, and the surge protectors just make it easier. Another great tip is to use some smart sockets. These work with whatever smart home device you have, and you can just tell your virtual assistant to turn on your lights, and that's pretty awesome. So I would definitely not recommend doing this for like your actual computer or any electronics, but for me, my LED lights all go into one cable, so I can just stick this in front of it, and boom, all I've got to do is hook it up to my phone, and I can turn on the lights with the click of a button, or tell my smart assistant to do it. Alright, my next big tip is going to be color coding with zip ties. So as you can see, I've got a bunch of cords going from my monitor, and to keep them all straight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some like yellow zip ties or whatever, and keep them all wrapped in yellow. Now this helps a ton so that if I'm ever redoing my cables sometime, or even if I'm just like looking at them, I'll know that boom, those yellow ones, they're all going to the monitor, or boom, those green ones, they're all going to the lights. In my opinion, zip ties are an amazing tool for doing cables, as long as you don't tighten them too tight, because they are really easy to cut if you ever need to redo them, and they hold really easily. My next big tip is going to be some cable runways. These are an awesome way to hide some cables that are just out in the open and you can't really help it, like those ones going into the socket. So basically all these are is it's just a little thing that you can run your cables through, snap it together like I just did, and boom, now you've got a nice clean looking runway for your cables. Now, if you are buying cable runways, I would recommend buying a section that's maybe something like 8 feet. That was what I did, and I still have some left over. Now, what I use to cut them is a hacksaw, and you can use these 8 feet sections. You don't need to buy like the little sections, and you can just cut it with a hacksaw so that, boom, you can take an 8 foot and cut it into as ever many pieces as you need. My next tip is going to be how do you get those cables onto your wall or onto your desk? Well, you can use these cable clips, which you just screw in, and boom, whatever cables you have going through, they're not going to move. Alternatively, if you want to coil up some cables and you want them to stay, you can use something like a cable clamp. These are super duper useful. You can just put them in and snap them together and your cables aren't coming out anytime soon. If you don't have any of those and you don't want to buy them, you can actually use some chip clips. Make sure that they're not too like pointed or whatever so they don't damage your cables. But if you do, great way to hold some cables. Alright, now my cables are looking really good except for that back part, but I'm going to do that in a second. Now it's time for the secret Finnovation patent pending, not really, secret technique. So what I'm going to be using is actually bike inner tube. So as you can see on the screen right now, there's that little section where it looks really good and organized. It just would look a little bit better if it felt a little bit more themed. So I'm going to be using some bike inner tube to cover it. So how I'm going to do that is I am just going to be using some like tin snips or just multi-purpose scissors. And now for this, you could really just use a cable sleeve, but I'm going to be using a bike inner tube because it does the exact same thing, and I've got it for free. Alright, so as you guys can see, I covered up those two cables that are on the screen right now, and they look so much better. So again, all that is a bicycle inner tube, and now looking at the other stuff, it is all looking really good. Alright, so I'm going to give you guys like an after tour of the setup. So this is with all my tips being used, and as you can see, like, this is the angle that you would normally come in the room. The only cables that are visible are these ones right here. I know you can kind of see those ones, but in person you really can't. And the ones that are there, I really like that they're covered up. Now when we do go behind, it's really nicely cabled, as you can see, like all going into one central line, color coded and everything. The lights down here all nice and lined up. If we go over to the back of the monitor, again, nice and lined up. There's really only one cord, and there's a few other right here, which this one I guess has fallen a little bit, but again, all coiled all the way to the PC, and it looks great, and I'm so happy I did this. Well, I think it turned out really amazing, and it's awesome that I can get all those wires to be hidden, and you can too. Just, you gotta stop procrastinating and start doing it. That was really my big problem.
Ben, that reminds me of a joke.
Oh boy.
Did you hear what happened to the kid who touched the electrical wire? What happened next was shocking.
That was terrible. Whatever, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe down below. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!